And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
The view.
Well,
that's the problem in America.
But
there is one view,
right, and
one
that's clearly
true opinion, and everybody else can go sit in the corner.
Above any matters of politics or what's right or wrong, the one thing I know for sure about America is this: it's run by mean girls. Mean girls in the press and in politics and in life, and when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied.
Bill Maher is taking aim at Whoopi Goldberg once again, and this latest exchange is getting plenty of attention. What began as a disagreement between two longtime allies has gradually turned into a years-long public feud, with both sides trading comments back and forth. But this time, Maher's response has people talking more than ever. So, what sparked his latest reaction, and what exactly did he say that set off so much discussion? If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and let's dive into the story.
Stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Maher didn't waste any time responding. He fired back with a sharp jab, comparing Goldberg to someone who got a little too confident, stepped too close to danger, and ended up paying the price. It was the kind of line that immediately got people talking. But to understand why this exchange has drawn so much attention, you have to look at the history between them. The tension goes back to the height of the COVID era, when Goldberg publicly criticized Maher for questioning mask policies. At the time, the issue was highly charged, and her comments put the two on opposite sides of a very public debate. That could have been the end of it, but the back and forth didn't stop there. More recently, Goldberg appeared to take another shot at Maher, suggesting that he had drifted away from his political roots and changed his views over the years. For Maher, that was an opening he wasn't about to ignore. Known for responding directly to criticism, he made it clear he wasn't going to let the comments slide, and his latest comeback quickly became a major talking point.
Someone must tell the usual suspects on the far left that the saying is, when you're in a hole, stop digging. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person. What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected a black president by now. Oh, what, we did? Asked if racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that, at higher levels than black and Hispanic people.
This is where Maher shifts gears and delivers his criticism in a much more calculated way. Instead of calling Goldberg out directly, he takes aim at a broader mindset, one that many viewers immediately associate with her. Anyone who regularly watches The View knows the kind of perspective he's talking about. Goldberg often approaches major discussions, whether they're about politics, culture, history, or current events, through the subjects of race and gender. It's become a major part of how she frames many of the issues discussed on the show. Maher strongly disagrees with that approach. He argues that constantly viewing every issue through those lenses can create a distorted picture of reality and make honest conversations more difficult. In his view, some narratives are presented in a way that exaggerates problems rather than helping people understand them. To support his argument, Maher points to what he sees as a significant example: the fact that America elected a black president not once, but twice. For him, that's evidence that the country is more complex than the bleak picture often painted by some commentators. And it's a point he believes can't simply be ignored.
It's interesting that it's called, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
that's the problem in America.
But
there is one view,
right, and
one
that's clearly
true opinion, and everybody else can go sit in the corner.
That's correct. I think that's not actually, you're right, the name raises questions, and certainly there's been some much covered internal politics on that show, but I do think that, you know, there is space. Even that show does have space. When Whoopi said what she said, there was quick pushback from other panelists. They were like, oh, I don't know. Actually, I think that might not be right. That's it. Mission accomplished. We talked about it.
And that's when Maher really turns up the heat. The gloves come off, the criticism gets sharper, and he goes straight after what he sees as one of The View's biggest contradictions. According to Maher, the show presents itself as a place where different viewpoints can be heard, but in practice, he believes certain opinions are welcomed while others are quickly shut down. For him, that's more than just a flaw in the format. It's a problem that undermines genuine debate. The example he points to most often is Alyssa Farah Griffin, the panel's lone conservative voice. Maher argues that whenever Griffin offers a perspective that goes against the majority opinion at the table, she's frequently met with immediate pushback. Discussions can quickly become heated, with multiple hosts challenging her position at once. From Maher's perspective, that's the opposite of what a healthy exchange of ideas should look like. He believes real conversation requires people to hear opposing viewpoints, not simply talk over them. Whether people agree with him or not, it's a criticism he's been making more and more openly, and it's become a major part of his ongoing frustration with the show.
Above any matters of politics or what's right or wrong, the one thing I know for sure about America is this: it's run by mean girls. Mean girls in the press and in politics and in life. And when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied.
In Maher's view, the problem goes far beyond political disagreements. He argues that some of the hosts on The View have become less interested in having real conversations and more interested in policing which opinions are allowed at the table. According to Maher, people who fall outside the show's dominant point of view often aren't simply challenged, they're treated with open hostility. He has repeatedly criticized what he sees as a tendency to dismiss or ridicule those with opposing political beliefs, particularly supporters of Donald Trump. One example that stands out to him is Whoopi Goldberg's long-running refusal to say Trump's name on air. Instead, she often refers to him indirectly, a choice that has become a recurring talking point among critics of the show. Maher appears to view that approach as more symbolic than meaningful. From his perspective, refusing to acknowledge a major political figure by name doesn't strengthen an argument or advance a discussion. Instead, he sees it as a distraction from the larger issues being debated. Whether viewers agree with Maher's criticism or not, it's clear that he believes public conversations work best when people confront ideas directly, rather than turning political disagreements into personal battles.
I mentioned this karma stuff on the show last week because I was relating how many texts and emails I got from people congratulating me on receiving a karmagram from the universe in the form of Whoopi Goldberg's chastisement. So I thought this would be a good time for a little tutorial on karma, which, as Americans understand it, is nothing more than an extension of the common logical fallacy called post hoc ergo propter hoc, which means after that, because of that. It's the fallacy that happens when someone assumes that if one thing follows another, then the first thing must have caused the second thing.
This is where the story takes an unexpected turn. For a brief moment, Maher steps away from the criticism and takes a more measured approach. After Goldberg was temporarily suspended from The View, some people were quick to connect that situation to her public disagreements with Maher. The timing fueled plenty of speculation, and before long, a narrative started circulating that her suspension was somehow tied to their ongoing feud. Maher, however, pushed back on that idea. He made it clear that her suspension had nothing to do with him or any of their past exchanges. In a rare moment of agreement with his critics, he focused on setting the record straight rather than scoring points. To many observers, it was an unusually fair response from someone who had spent years publicly sparring with Goldberg. But that didn't mean the larger conflict had suddenly disappeared. Once the facts were clarified, Maher returned to his broader criticisms of Goldberg in The View. The brief show of fairness may have cooled things down for a moment, but it certainly didn't signal the end of the rivalry. If anything, it proved that while Maher was willing to correct the record, he had no intention of backing away from the debate itself.
They don't want your pity. And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class. I mean, you know, again, I got my popcorn. I don't know why people did what they did. I see all these reasons, and so, okay, time will tell. But what do y'all think?
I just, you know, I know that as a country, it's very difficult for people to believe that racism and misogyny, they're just alive and well. I think that we don't want to think that about ourselves.
This is where Maher says his critics are missing the point. According to him, he never claimed that racism and sexism no longer exists in America. Instead, he argues that some commentators paint a far darker picture than the facts support. Maher's position is that while discrimination remains a real issue, it's also important to recognize the progress that's been made. He points to the growing success of minorities in business, homeownership, wealth creation, and public office as evidence that opportunities have expanded over time. His argument isn't that the problems are gone. It's that acknowledging progress and acknowledging challenges can both be true at the same time. And in his view, ignoring that progress creates a misleading picture of reality.
But it's not like the left hasn't changed also. So I'm going to call it out wherever I see it. I mean, there are things that have to do with, you know, gender and race and free speech and just ideas about, you know, you can be healthy at any weight, and gender is always a social construct, and maybe we should give communism another try, and maybe we should get rid of capitalism and the border patrol, and let's tear down statues of Lincoln and get rid of the police. Just, you know, no. It's not that I've gotten old, it's that your ideas are stupid.
Maher also addresses the idea that he's somehow become a right-wing supporter or abandoned his old beliefs. He rejects that label outright. In his view, he hasn't changed nearly as much as people claim. What changed, he argues, is the broader direction of the left, and even figures like Goldberg, who he sees as staying firmly aligned with it. Maher often describes the earlier version of liberalism he supported as focused on free speech, civil liberties, and open debate. He believes modern progressive politics has shifted in a direction he finds harder to recognize or agree with. From his perspective, some ideas that have gained attention in recent years represent a sharper, more extreme form of activism rather than traditional liberal thinking. Because of that, he sees the divide not as him moving away, but as the political landscape itself moving in another direction.
You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to bullshit. The Democratic polling firm Blueprint told Democrats months ago that black voters, aka their supposedly liberal base, were more likely to find the president too liberal than too conservative. They also found that voters didn't just want Harris to distance herself from Biden, they wanted her to distance herself from what they believe the entire Democratic Party has become, a Portlandia sketch. A bunch of privileged mean girls complaining about privilege and trying to make fetch happen.
Maher argues that this kind of reaction reflects a deeper problem, a lack of self-reflection. In his view, the view often doubles down, instead of reassessing when political outcomes don't go their way. After the 2024 election, he believes a more honest response would have involved questioning what went wrong for the Democratic Party. Instead, he says the panel tended to frame the results as a misunderstanding by voters rather than a sign of deeper issues. He also points to polling and research suggesting that some voters, including black voters, saw Kamala Harris as too far left. According to Maher's criticism, those findings were often dismissed rather than seriously engaged with. From his perspective, that reaction shows a broader unwillingness to confront uncomfortable data when it challenges an established narrative.
But they don't need to. Have you seen my "In this house we believe" lawn sign? See, it says right on it, we believe in science. Right, which is why you demanded no one even debate whether COVID could have escaped from the one lab in the one city where they were studying it. How far-fetched. The New York Times called it racist. Democrats have become like a royal family that, because of so much incest, has unfortunately had children who are retarded. And the same thing can happen to ideas. if they are also conceived in an atmosphere of intellectual incest. Maybe take the clothespins off your noses and actually converse with the other half of the country. Stop screaming at people to get with the program and instead make a program worth getting with. What good is liberalism if you don't win elections? Last week, Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton said, "I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that." Yes, there's the problem in a nutshell. Because Congressman Moulton sounds reasonable to me.
And that's the story so far, one of TV's most talked about ongoing feuds. What makes it so engaging isn't just the personalities involved, but also what they represent. Maher positions himself as someone willing to follow an argument wherever it goes, even when it challenges his own side. His critics see him very differently, but that tension is part of what keeps this debate alive. On the other side, the view is often portrayed by Maher and his supporters as reflecting a more fixed and combative style of political discussion, where disagreement quickly turns into confrontation rather than dialogue. At the heart of it, this clash is really about how public conversations should work, whether they should prioritize strict narratives or allow for more open-ended debate. And that disagreement is exactly why this feud keeps getting attention. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.